Good evening, North America, United States, and beyond. It's another episode of the Total-MLS Roundtable, a very serious look at Major League Soccer. No, are we kidding? Not really. I am Dustin Richardson, here in Houston, where things are not looking too well for the local 11. Joining us tonight, making his valiant return to the podcast game. You can also see him on the first 11. Seth, master of blind draws. What's up?
What is happening? I know I've been away for quite a while, and I figured that this is a perfect week for me to come back to the podcast. I mean, Jermaine Jones, blind draws. These are all the things I'm expert at. So I'll try my best to enlighten you guys about what's going on in MLS.
Yes, Seth was out on loan. He's now back with the club. Also with us, up in Canada, the Revs opponent this weekend in Toronto. Back on the podcast as well. Rob, how are things up north?
Pretty good. It's pretty good. Summer's winding down, and how fitting that we get our first heat wave warning on the last few days of summer. But it's pretty good up here.
What is it, like 85 up there?
I don't know, whatever 31 degrees Celsius is.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Our friends in Canada are on the metric system with Celsius. That's all another discussion. Yeah, 31 Celsius. Seth, you're in education. You can figure that out.
I think it has something to do with Canada not making a World Cup in a while. I'm not sure.
That could be it.
That's not a cheap shot. My bad. I'm sorry.
That hurts, man.
That is at SethMan31, Canada. Rounding out the panel tonight. We'll just move right on from there. You can find him on Total-MLS. You can find him at 32 Flags, MLS title belt. He's a jack of all trades. Philip, how are things?
Oh, hopefully we're gonna get better.
This is like when you're the champions, you're a sporty Kansas City fan. Oh man, we lost a game. Meanwhile, the Dynamo are like in this tail slide, and it's tail slide. Is that even a word? Tailspin. The roof's caving in. But 3-0 at home is pretty scary, to say the least. We could start there. The big top of the table clash this week in the East. Sporting Kansas City, a chance to kind of put their stamp on things in the East. At home, the soccer capital. Sorry, Portland. Sorry, Seattle. DC comes in, 3 goals in, 8 minutes?
Yeah.
That's pretty much all she wrote. So what exactly happened from your perspective, Philip?
It was tough. I'm not going to blame it on Champions League because DC had played Champions League game too, so they were both kind of even there. Sporting did have to go down to Central America for that's the only difference. But I think it was just one of those games. DC matched up well, and they just weren't afraid. This is a heavyweight fight. They just came out and just slammed Sporting in the jaw the first half hour, and Sporting couldn't get back up. It was a knockout punch.
Yeah, I think they were kind of those 2 quick goals in succession kind of put them on their heels, and they weren't really coming back from that. But I mean, we talked about before the season, DC being one of those teams. Well, they might be good, they might not be, but they may take time to gel. But you guys see them as a legit contender now?
Yeah, for sure. I think I've always loved to watch DC and compare them to Toronto FC because those two teams rebuilt in such different ways. I mean, Toronto FC went out and bought these high market players and spent this big money on big names, and DC built just within the league. I mean, they spent a lot of money as well, but they picked up guys like Sean Franklin. Like, anyone could have had Sean Franklin. Okay, anyone could have had Bobby Boswell. Anyone, especially a Spindola. Like, it's crazy to me that nobody else, tried to make a run at Spindola. And he's obviously a lot of money, but he's possibly an MVP candidate. And then you also have all these mixed pieces. Like, I always liked Luis Silva. I thought Toronto was kind of foolish for giving up that player. And to pick up Chris Rolfe, I mean, that really turned the season around. So to compare the two of them, and that's not to say Toronto isn't doing well. Toronto is doing well, and they definitely have a legitimate chance of making the playoffs. But it's been fun to compare those two teams because they went about it in two different ways.
Yeah, they used the re-entry draft, which like a lot of teams are kind of hesitant to use, but they picked up Franklin, they picked up Boswell, two guys that were all-stars. I mean, who would have saw that coming? So, and then Hamid's been lights out for the last few weeks, and that's not even counting their designated player who was suspended, Mr. Johnson, and his antics. I'm interested to see where he fits in now that he's back from suspension, because they've played well with Rolfe and Spindola up top. I mean, does Eddie even have a place? I don't know.
I think Eddie's going to be their new communications director.
Eddie will now be touring the league, teaching young players how to use social media, how to interact with fans, how to just be a good team guy, and thank the community where he plays. Oh, Eddie. That guy's something else. Enigma. In every sense of the word.
I don't think you start him though. I think Silva and Spindola have such a great chemistry that you don't mess with it, and that might ruin the locker room. But it might be just to a point that maybe Eddie Johnson's not in the locker room or just gets humbled. I don't know if you can humble Eddie Johnson, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do, but I think that the team has. And that's not saying Eddie Johnson's a bad player, because even though he hasn't put the stats together, he does a lot of off-the-ball stuff and the gritty stuff and the hold-up play and just these things that don't necessarily show up in stats. But the team is obviously playing well without him, so I don't think you put him into the starting lineup.
He's been on a World Cup roster, Seth. Have you? Okay.
I came close. I think it was an alternate in 2006 for Taylor Twellman.
Oh, that was... Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing you probably run into with Johnson. If you bench him, he probably turns into a diva and sulks and complains, and I mean, but you kind of know that going in with Eddie, right? That's his reputation everywhere he's been. So I mean, Olsen probably knows that. We'll see what they do, but they're now top of the East. Sporting falls back, and then you have a giant cluster. It seems like every week we talk about this team making a run, this team falling down. I think Toronto, Columbus has now caught Toronto. I mean, Columbus is playing well. They just put They put a whooping on Houston.
I like Columbus. I think that I'm still not sure about their forward situation. I mean, it's crazy that they're getting so much out of like Ethan Finley and Miram. Like, who are these guys? I mean, I know who they are, but you just would not peg them as guys that are going to have breakout years. And I always was concerned because I thought Arrieta was good, but when he went down injured, I thought for sure that was the end of their season. But they're doing well, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I always liked the Nor. I mean, they have some guys that like. You look at and say, they're decent MLS players, but I mean Berhalter's he's putting it together. I mean the guy knows what he's doing. That's a pretty and then Higuain's gonna do his magic every once in a while. I mean they're gonna be pretty, I think, pretty tough to deal with down the stretch. You have Toronto, Columbus, New York, New England, Philadelphia, all within 3 points of each other, 33-30. points. Philadelphia, they have the Open Cup final coming up, so we'll see how they maneuver. New England has made their massive signing that the fans have clamored for. MLS went to the file cabinet, pulled out some envelopes, put a couple team names in it. Don Garber put them in a little hopper, and bam, Seth, you have Jermaine Jones. First off, master of the blind draw. Do you have any insight into how this all went down?
I think that there was some candles lit, some slow jazz playing, and a couple of envelopes. I think it was not the. I think it was actually because of Emmy season that they had the envelopes come out and use them, because John Garber was all about the pageantry.
Yeah, like they had Matthew McConaughey come out and announce it.
See, I'm not against the whole blind draw, because I think it should be fair. If 2 teams or more teams wanted to get this player, then something like this is appropriate. They could both shell out the same amount of money, which, from my understanding, and I know Taylor Twellman said something different, but from my understanding, nobody else was going to pay Bradley and Dempsey the amount of money. Okay? So if that's the case, then there is no need for a blind draw. In this situation, there was 2 teams that wanted him, and you need to have parity, you need to have fairness. So to do something like this is legit to me. The weird thing to me, though, is why not make a bigger spectacle of it? Yeah. Why not, make it at halftime and show everyone? Like, everyone wants transparency. Like, I know it probably would look kind of crude. I'm sure you could do it in some fun way, but literally just take a hat and pull a name out of it and say, haha, and just show it. Or do it like the World Cup draw. If you want to make it better and more fancy, get the thing there, play some music, and pull it out, and Taylor Twellman can, go crazy and say that it's a great sign that someone got punched in the face or something like that, like he said during the Ghana game. Do something like that instead of have it in the morning and announce it 12 hours later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, agreed. If, for the last month and a half, we've seen everybody and their mother put out a video for the Ice Bucket Challenge, but MLS can't even just do a minute video, put it on YouTube, and say, here's the draw, here's the team, there.
Yeah, they're pretty social media savvy over there at MLS. They could have thrown together some kind of Vine or something of some kind of draw. Yeah, I like Seth's idea, like the World Cup draw. Have some chick in a dress hanging out up there.
Well, I think Grant Wall came up with the idea of getting the GMs of both Chicago and New England together and then have the draw on
kind of like
live TV.
The NBA draft lottery.
Why not just get them to arm wrestle or something like that?
That would have been.
Yeah, that'd be more fun. Or the best, probably the most competitive and fun way would be in 3 games from now, the New England Revolution play the Chicago Fire. Why not just have the Jermaine Jones Derby? Why not just have
Jermaine's hanging over the field in a cage, wrestling or something.
Yeah. Imagine how crazy that would be. Yallop in heaps. That's the greatest challenge of their life. That'd probably outdo the MLS Cup. I don't understand how MLS Cup could be bigger than that. If you had Jermaine Jones looking down from the penthouse, suite up there
with Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen with him in the suite.
Yeah.
Gareth Hilton. All of them hanging out.
Have Jermaine Jones wearing a hat, half Chicago Fire, half New England Revolution jersey.
Yeah, and he rips off his button-up shirt to reveal the jersey.
It's cheap as USA.
Good God, that's Jermaine Jones music. Jermaine Jones just killed a man.
I mean, this went on for so long. Why not have some fun with it? Why not do I don't know. It went on for so long. It was will they, won't they? And then it just kind of happened. And today it was a press conference, and it's just standard stuff. it just seems like with the personality that Jermaine Jones has, I mean, he was taking pictures with Paris Hilton. He was doing like celebrity kickball tournaments. Like, he could have done something fun, and the league would like this would have blown up on social media if they'd done something entertaining. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah. And then ESPN picks it up, and the Big Lead, and all these places. You get some buzz. People complain about like coverage of the league, but yeah, like you said, there's already complaints about transparency and who knows what's going on. Why not? Yeah, why not do something with it?
They should have done Deal or No Deal with Jermaine Jones' salary.
Or they keep opening suitcases.
Yeah, like you want. What do you want? Like $7 million? You want this amount of money? Well, we want to pay $1, and then they just have to slowly negotiate with Michael Burns as the banker.
There goes $7 million. Sorry, Jermaine.
Yep.
Looks like that's out.
Here comes Michael Burns with an offer.
Yeah, he's up in that little room, like a shadow silhouette. Howie Mandel's down there.
Could have been fun. I'm
Jermaine.
so disappointed. I'm so disappointed that that Jermaine Jones has a team now.
I know. I was kind of liking his gallivanting and just like kicking it in Hollywood, and I was half hoping he was going to buy Chivas USA and just like make himself player owner. And then just have like install hot tubs on the sidelines and like all his boys just hanging out. He really needs to embrace this too. Like he needs to be like the Johnny Football of MLS. He needs to start hanging with like Drake and all these guys, just partying it up. I mean, come on, Jermaine, do it for the league.
Do it for the league.
But from a I guess actual play perspective, where does Jones fit in with the Revs, Seth? He's obviously a holding midfielder most of the time. Who's out in whose spot does he take, and then how do you think he fits in Heat's system?
Yeah, Jones is an interesting one because the Revs have needed I just gave myself a Charlie horse. The Revs have needed a defensive midfielder for a long time now. And they tried Khalifa Cisse last year, which was a big signing. They paid him over $400,000, and he really didn't work out well. And then Scott Caldwell started playing really well, and then he hit a rookie wall. So Andy Dorman took over. They really weren't able to find anyone in the offseason. They brought Shari Joseph back in, which he got injured as soon as he had his first practice. So he took a long time to recover. And there's questions of Scott Caldwell not being physical enough. Who are you going to get? They get the biggest guy you could possibly get for a defensive midfielder. They get Jermaine Jones. He could play a variety of different ways. I mean, he could just take Scott Caldwell's position and just play as a defensive midfielder. I think he'd be fine at that. He'd probably be able to cover a decent amount of ground. The question is, does he like to get forward? Yes. So does that kind of ruin the system? Would you rather have someone next to him like we saw at the World Cup? If that's the situation, I'm arguing for a double pivot system with Scott Caldwell. So you put those two guys together, you allow Jones some freedom because he can shoot, he can pass, and those two together will free up like Kellen Rowe, Lee Win, Daigo Kobayashi, and things like that. You might end up seeing some talented players on the bench. Diego Fagundes hasn't played very well. Teal Bunbury was on the bench this past weekend to start with, but that's fine. I mean, if you're talking about winning and getting into the playoffs, like, you just put your best 11 out there, and if your best 11 doesn't include that teenage sensation or doesn't include, former U.S. international Charlie Davies, then that's just the way it is. That's the beauty of having so much competition.
Yeah, there was someone on this panel that in our preseason picks took Fagundes to win the Golden Boot. So I'm not really confident in that. That was one of my bad picks this season. Anyway, so with Jones now, New England's 1 point behind New York. They're in 6th right now. You guys see New England as, do you see them as a playoff team? B, do you think they can contend now in the East? Philip, I'll start with you.
Both, I say, yeah. I mean, it's wide open, and the thing that told me about Jermaine Jones and the fact that New England wanted to get Jermaine Jones, it has nothing to do with him on the field. Well, it will, but it showed me that the mindset in New England has changed. Before the season, they were going for depth and building the team for the future. Now they're right outside the playoff spot. They're 3 points behind in third, and nobody really seems to want to take the lead in terms of being that team in the East because they're all having issues at various points. So New England thinks of it as, well, let's sacrifice the future. The rest of this year, next year, let's go for it. And that's what the Jermaine Jones move showed me. And they're really going, this MLS Cup or bust for them.
Yeah, I think they're kind of throwing caution to the wind and going for it. So, I mean, like you said, it's wide open though. If there's ever a time to go for it, probably be now. Rob, you go ahead, Seth.
I agree with a lot of that. This is a huge signing for them, especially like you said, this year it's so close. Like anyone could sneak in right now except for Montreal. It's all feasible. Like Philadelphia has a great chance, and you never know what's going to happen. To me, the pressure isn't as much on for the Revs in 2014. It's on for 2015 because like that's big. I mean, they hypothetically have an option for 2016. At least that's what Ives said. But he's getting older. 2015 is basically his best year in MLS. So they're going to need to go all out. If they do well this year, if they somehow grab the cup, great. But I think expectations are going to be really, really high. I mean, look at New York this year, right? Like everyone thinks New York has to win the cup or LA has to win the cup because they have these big names that are about to retire. So the pressure's on, I think, but I think the fan base is just happy enough right now that they got a new player and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, just the mere fact that it's August and Robert Kraft is taking pictures with Jermaine Jones, that's saying a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially the NFL season starting.
Yeah.
So Rob, what do you think on New England? Contenders?
I thought even from the beginning of the season that they had playoff. They have what it takes to make the playoffs. Whether adding a 34-year-old or a 33-year-old player as a DP almost at the end of the season, does that put them over the edge to make them a contender? I don't think so. They're a strong team. They're a young team, and it's like the other guys were saying, next year. I don't know. It's definitely a change in mentality for New England, but does Jermaine Jones really have what it takes to be the player that they need him to be? I don't know. I mean, I can't really say that I ever watched him when he played in Europe or anything like that, but I have a feeling that a lot of this signing is World Cup hype. If he didn't perform the way he did at the World Cup or kind of take over for the Americans and kind of put them on their back like he did, does this signing happen? I don't know. But I don't think he pushes them over the edge. I think it's more of a hype signing than anything. They have the depth at pretty much every position. Really, the pressure's not even on them at all. It's more on the teams above them to keep pace, because now it's like when TFC signed Bradley and Defoe. They took all the pressure on themselves for making a big signing like that. But Jermaine Jones, good player, but not enough to really push New England that extra step.
Yeah, I think his World Cup performance, he may have come back anyway, regardless of what happened in the World Cup, but it definitely boosted his paycheck that Portugal goal alone was probably worth another million, just from that goal he scored in the Portugal game. But yeah, I mean, I think the thing with New England is, we were talking about how close it is. I think DC and Sporting are probably in. I like Toronto to get in. Like I said earlier, I think Columbus is probably. I mean, I like them. They're pretty good. New York, I have to think, with their stars they're in. That's 5 teams right there. I mean, New England's going to have to jump one of them. Columbus, maybe. I don't know.
I think of anybody, it would be Columbus. I feel like Columbus is just really overachieving at the moment.
Now that Gonzalez is gone too. We'll see.
Yeah, from the beginning of the season, I didn't think that they had much of a chance. So the fact that they're even in the race at this point it's good on them. But I don't think that they make the playoffs. I think New England has a much better shot than they do.
Yeah, New England's 3 back. They have a game in hand, so it's going to be close. And then Philadelphia's 3 back. They've played 25. What do you guys see as the East? The 5 in the East, Seth. New England's one of them.
I think I agree with Rob that if you see someone dropped back, it's probably Columbus, and maybe New England jumps into there. I really liked Philadelphia since Jim Curtin took over. I think also Jim Curtin's hilarious as a coach as far as like his press conferences. He's one of the great guys on the microphone that like actually says really kind of funny and out there type of stuff. So I'm kind of rooting for that guy, even though he's obviously competing against the Revs. I don't know. It depends on when Jones gets on the field, and it depends on if their other signing, Jeffrey Castellon, if he's a decent number 9, because Charlie Davies has been doing well. He has, in the last 4 games, he has 2 goals and 1 assist, but he's not the true number 9. He's just kind of playing the role, and he's playing it pretty well, but he's just not quite the forward that you need to be.
Philip, you agree? Disagree?
I would agree for the most part. Yikes, it's a minefield in the East. But Sporting and DC, obviously. Then I go Toronto, New England, and Philly. I don't think at this point I don't think the Red Bulls make it, and I don't think Columbus makes it.
Bold. Ooh.
Bradley Wright, you're betting against Bradley Wright Phillips.
I know.
And Thierry Henry
and TT
and
Cahill.
And I know it's going to come back to bite me, but yeah, at this point, I see Red Bulls. Yeah, I see Red Bulls dropping more points.
I mean, if New York with that roster doesn't make the playoffs, with New York City coming into the league, they're going to be like going for Messi and Ronaldo, and they're going to like that might actually be pretty entertaining to watch. They'll just like flip their what and just pull a Toronto and just try to spend as much money as they can, just going nuts, because they already don't like New York City coming in, so they're already going to have to try to one-up them, especially if Henry retires. That leaves them another designated player spot. Who knows on Cahill? But that's a bold prediction there. New York out.
And it could change 9 or 10 times before we get close to the end of the year. But.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like I said earlier, it's like every week something else is it's a strange, crazy season in MLS. But New York, I mean, they have a pretty tough schedule. Their next 2 games they have DC, Sporting, DC again. Then they still have Philly, Montreal, Seattle, LA, Houston, Toronto, Columbus, Sporting. I mean, there's a lot of difficult games there.
And a couple of Champions League games.
Yeah.
Which is playing one tonight too.
Yeah, some of those Montreal games are Champions League. They're in their group. Yeah, they're playing one tonight. They're They're leading 1-0 with behind the beautiful former Rev, the French monster up front, Siersen.
Yes.
1-0. Red Bulls leading 1-0. 67th minute. If you have Fox Sports 2, you can watch it. Or Univision Deportes. It's also on. So that's the East. That's our thoughts on the East. Like we said, the last week of the season, there'll probably be 3 or 4 teams fighting for not just positioning, but trying to get in. Over in the West, however, we saw a change at the top briefly. Dallas, 10-man Dallas beating Salt Lake, which was pretty impressive. And every week now, I have to come on here and talk good about Dallas. It hurts my soul coming from someone that has lived my entire life in Houston. It crushes me with everything inside of me to talk good about Dallas. But they've played well, and they went down to 10 men after Blas Perez dove to get sent off. Guys, your thoughts on the sending off, the second yellow on the dive?
I don't know. You go ahead, Phil.
I mean, I didn't see it live, but I saw the replay, and it took some big ones for the ref to give that card, but in a way, that's what they should be doing all along. I mean, everyone's almost number one big issue with soccer is diving, and the rule is if you dive, you should be given a card, but refs don't do it, so the punishment isn't there. And if you go by risk reward, I don't blame players for diving. I hate it. It's a problem, but I don't blame them for doing it if the ref's not going to do their job and give out the card. That happened there. It should happen a lot more. I was fine with it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. That's the problem. That think of all the rules that get ignored in soccer. The goalkeeping one is the biggest one. A penalty kick, not coming off your line. So goalkeepers are going to do it, and people are going to dive because how often does it actually get punished?
Exactly.
You only get punished when you have a reputation for it. Like you look at Charlie Davies, and Charlie Davies has 2 yellow cards this season for diving, and you could even argue some of those that they weren't necessarily that blatant or even that bad. I mean, against New York, he definitely got chopped down by a defender, but because he embellished it and oversold it a little bit, he didn't get the call. So certain players get a reputation. Blas Perez is one of those players that his reputation's kind of caught up to him. So I'm fine with the yellow card. I think that it's a little bit harsh given the because he could do it next week. Well, he can't do it next week. We could do it the week after and not get anything. So that's the problem. So it's not going to correct the behavior.
Yeah, it's so inconsistent that it almost defeats the purpose. Another rule I remember too is I remember the league making a big deal about it, that the referee holding the ball for 6 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
If it take too long to go give a yellow. I remember Kronberg getting popped at least twice, maybe 3 times at the beginning of the year because of holding onto the ball.
Mm-hmm. That was do you guys remember the U.S. versus Canada, right? Women's game. That rule was randomly
closing his
out.
ears. If you're not
listening. Not listening.
That was just ridiculous. How do you pull out that type of rule?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Seth, you're loving bringing up all these heart-aching moments for us.
I'm sorry. My bad.
Rob is just.
I don't know what I've
from
don
all
to
angles.
deserve this.
Yeah, and I think on that Blas Perez thing, I think we all, like you said, diving's diving. It should be a card. But Friday night when I was on the Total-MLS account tweeting, I got a couple of interesting tweets, like this one from Mr. Coffee. I don't know if that's your real name, but his tweet said, "Rest of entire world dives to draw fouls. It's part of the game. In MLS, we look down on it. #years behind." So there are some people who think, I mean, he followed it up with, if I'm a Latin player growing up playing in a league in which diving is culturally acceptable, like South American leagues, then I stay a long way away from MLS, a league that punishes me for playing the way I grew up watching and was taught.
Wow. There's all kinds out there, eh?
Yeah.
Man.
It was very interesting.
Open a rule book.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty blatant, and it's supposed to be a card. And I think, like what you said, Seth, I mean, if you dive, you get a card, and that's going to put a big stop to things much faster. But there's so many times, I mean, like, you watch the EPL even, a guy goes down in the box, the ref waves play on. Well,
Yeah.
it should be a penalty or it should be a yellow card. You know,
Yeah.
the play on, get up, or the refs yell at them, get up. What is that?
Yeah.
What good is that doing?
Yeah, I remember it. I remember that happening this weekend a couple times, just in the EPL. They give out yellows, but it's only to guys who have that reputation. Ashley Cole, Suarez when he was at Liverpool.
Ashley Young got one this weekend.
Yeah, Ashley Young, not Ashley Cole. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you nip it in the butt. If MLS came out and said, start of next season even, if you dive, you're getting a card, and it would be, and that was the league mandate. Instead of worrying about things like 6-second rules with the keepers, they mandated things that actually mattered. You would see a lot less guys going down, and a lot less. Perez probably deserved the card, but if Schuler probably should have been sent off also. I mean, you can't two-hand shove a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how hard he pushed him, I mean, that's violent conduct is also in the rule book as a red card. I know it's not violent, but
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I mean, that dive was a horrendous dive.
that's probably part of it.
That was the worst dive. But going back to what you said about pushing and shoving, violent contacts, whatever the rule book actually calls it, that kind of stuff goes on more often than probably a lot of people would think. So if you're going to send off everybody for something like that, like it happened a few times during Toronto-Chicago near the end of the game there. It started to get a little bit chippy. So every time players come together, you're going to send somebody off. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but that dive deserved the red.
Yeah, I think the horribleness, if that's a verb, of the dive may have played into it. Like just the flailing nature of it. It was bad. And you could even see like Nick Ramondo, some of the RSL guys, getting in Perez's face, and I know it pisses players off when, especially ridiculous dives like that. So if that's not a yellow card, then what is?
That having been said, I love Dallas. Dallas, I know that's probably gonna hurt Dustin now, but Dallas is like, Oscar Pareja is my coach of the year, and I'll admit that part of it has to do with how well he did last year with Colorado. I thought he was kind of snubbed last year, but like this guy does so much with like injury. He'll never complain about injuries. Like Mario Diaz is one of the best young attackers, one of the best attackers in the league, and he's played so little this year, and he's actually turned Castillo into a good player, and not just a player that just runs at guys aimlessly. Like his streak right now is amazing, and he picks up a guy from the School of Mines. Like who moves up in the draft to pick up a guy from the School of Mines? And Akindelli's been really, really good. So he's kind of put this team together, and to get him second in the West and maybe even higher is really, really impressive. Ben also will probably get Coach of the Year because worst to first or whatever it's going to be is an amazing story. But Pareja has been outstanding.
Yeah, I think it's Olsen, Pareja, maybe Berhalter gets in there a little love as well. But yeah, Dallas doesn't have any superstars where name wise. Castillo is a superstar if you watch the league. That guy's incredible. But Pereira's turned these guys. I mean, he's George John is supposed to be this great U.S. international going to the Premier League. He hasn't played. Like you said, Diaz has been out. I mean, they're really just piecing it together with rookies and Fernandez is a good keeper, and then they're just filling in around Castillo, and Tesho's been playing out of his mind. It's pretty impressive to watch. It does hurt me, like you said. It hurts deeply. That team up north, a couple hours up the road. They still haven't won any cups, though, so have that going for them. They do have our cannon, though, El Capitan. The Dynamo and Dallas play for a stupid cannon. It's ridiculous, but we'll probably be meeting. We've only played them once a year for the last couple of years since the Dynamo moved to East, but next year they'll probably move back to the West, so we'll play Dallas more often. But
what kind of cup are you going to be playing for?
With Dallas,
Yeah, you got to come up with something.
we have a cannon.
Yeah, the cannon. The cannon's awesome.
Yeah, and whoever wins it like shoots it off, and it's like a real, actual like big cannon. Like
You having a Civil War reenactment on the field or something?
this is Texas. We're different down here. People are different in Texas.
Fine, Spanish-American War, a reenactment.
Yes, we remember the Alamo and have all these cannons just fired off at sporting events. That's how we do things. I think they had to get clearance like from the city the first time the Dynamo fired it off, which is pretty funny. So, that's enough about the Texas Derby. That was for Mike Darby, another British term that he loves. So, I think going back to the West is a lot more clear-cut as far as who's getting in. Seattle's in, Dallas is in, Salt Lake is in, LA is in. The four of them are probably going to jockey for the top four. You don't really want to be fourth because you have to play that silly wild card or play-in or whatever the league calls it. But fifth is going to be a fight. Vancouver is there now. Portland, you keep thinking Portland's going to put it together every week, but what is Portland? Are they a playoff team? Are they, last year's team? Are they just kind of mid-table? I keep wanting them every week, saying, "No, this is when they step up." Sunday they had a big chance at home and against their rivals, and they came out just blah.
I just don't think they have the consistency to go through. It's not that they don't have the talent or the playing style. It's just they can't get it together and keep it going. That's their problem. I think Vancouver sneaks in. They get into that fifth spot.
That's coming from someone in Canada, if you're listening. Rob loves the fellow Canadian teams. He's overjoyed at Montreal's spot in the table, let's just say that. So you got Seth, what you think, does Vancouver hold on? I mean they've been pretty fun to watch. I think Portland and Colorado are the only really two that have a shot. San Jose's like 8 back now. Chivas is Chivas.
Yeah, I think Vancouver could hold on. They do get Mario Rosales, which is kind of an interesting trade. I mean, I think it makes sense from Vancouver's standpoint, because Nigel Real-Coker wasn't really playing anymore, and he wasn't getting injured by running into bike racks. So what's the point of even having him? So Rosales, I mean, he has 8 assists with Chivas this year. I can imagine he's going to be doing better with more talented players with him in front of him. Portland, maybe. I mean, you imagine with so much talent there that they might be able to do it, but it might be just growing pains, and I don't know how good they're forward. I mean, Audie's been, hot and cold, and Rudy's been all right as well, and they don't really have the superstar up top.
I don't think Nagby's healthy is hurting them too. Nagby's not 100%. He's so key to them, the way he runs at guys, and he gets hacked so much. I know we've talked about this before, and I think you and I were talking about it on Twitter, Seth, just about how often Nagby gets fouled, and then I put out that thing about the number of fouls committed suffered, and it's all, like I think you said, Seth, it's all technical guys. And it's, guys like Nagby, they're this long season starting to wear on him. So we'll see what happens there with Portland. Phillip, Portland got a shot at this, catching Vancouver.
They have a shot. But I'm going to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And it's for the reasons you guys said, consistency.
I think the Vancouver fans were really excited to get rid of Rio Coker, just judging by the Twitter reactions. And then his wife, I think it's his wife's girlfriend, his significant other, was like getting all pissy on Twitter about the bike rack joke is old, get over it. So she might come after you, Seth.
Oh no! Did she watch the roundtable?
She probably does.
Of course she does. Sorry, I asked a stupid question.
A lot of wags follow Total MLS. You'd be surprised. Go down the list.
By the way, Total MLS is the official league Twitter account, right? Because that makes no sense. That
Yes.
Total MLS would be.
Yeah, let's just take a couple minutes to discuss this. There is an account that is just MLS. That happens to be the actual account for the league. It's run by, I don't know, people in New York City that have access to their Twitter account, whoever their little social media people are. Total MLS, not actually affiliated with the league. We have nothing to do with scheduling. We have nothing to do with player acquisitions. I'm trying to find the tweet the other day. That's why I'm dragging this out. But yeah, we are not exactly. We're not exactly the league mouthpiece, even. If you followed us for a while, we tend to make fun of them at times. So,
I wish we were, because that'd be a better paying job for me.
well, if Garber wants to call us up, I've been trying to get us in touch with ESPN since Men in Blazers left. Men with Scarves has not quite got off the ground, but
Hey, all MLS needs to do is just listen to the beginning of the show. We had social media, we had marketing with the blind draw on TV. Hey, we're giving them
We had ideas. We had plenty of ideas.
we did.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the tweet. 34-year-old legs plus AstroTurf. Way to go at the Soccer Don and at Total MLS. Hashtag stroking us again. Hashtag F97, which is the fire. Hashtag. Sorry for stroking you. Philip is the guy's name. We didn't mean to stroke you. I don't.
Stroking was accidental, I assure you.
The stroking. He said stroking us again. I don't remember the first time we stroked him. It may have been a late night.
Is this Roundtable PG-13 or is this rated R? What's going on here?
It's for the family.
It's past 9 o'clock in the east, so yeah.
Yeah, we're officially into like the territory where we can get a little. Well, I know the AASP has explicit on it, right, Seth?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Roundtable after dark.
Yeah. You guys only heard the post and pre-shows.
Yeah.
So yeah, just clearing things up once and for all. Total MLS on Twitter. Nothing to do with the league. And sorry for stroking anyone. So we got like 10 minutes left after all this riveting Major League Soccer discussion we've had with various topics. Let's just talk quickly. Champions League, Open Cup. We brought this up last week. We have a couple of new panelists, so we'll get Rob and Seth's thoughts on this. There are 5 MLS teams in the Champions League. Seth, who do you think has the best shot at winning it, if anyone? Does MLS have a shot at winning this thing this year? Second, B, number 2, who would that team be?
I don't think MLS has a chance or shot at winning it this year. I think it's just too hard. I think that we've talked about it all these different ways, like how the scheduling's set up, and how hard it is to go to all these different countries, Mexico, and even like El Salvador and stuff like that. It's just hard to get results in these types of areas. So I don't know if I see an MLS team doing it. I think if there is a team that does it, I like the idea of Sporting Kansas City because I think Peter Vermees is the type of coach that takes everything seriously, and I think that he's the type of guy that would kind of drive forward and maybe even sacrifice some league games, which I think Philip is hoping is what's going on given the recent results.
Yeah.
But like,
and there's no thing about it. He does take everything seriously.
Yeah. Yep. So maybe Sporting Kansas City is one that could possibly put it all together.
Rob, Montreal winning the Champions League.
Well, what? They went to quarterfinals when they were still in, what was it, USL or whatever?
Yeah, whatever they were in. Were they in NASL?
Whatever they were in. But no, I don't really think anybody's got a shot. If anybody had a shot, I'll have to agree with Seth. It would be KC, but long run, I don't see them. I don't see an MLS team winning it for the foreseeable future, I guess. But who knows? Who knows what happens with when New York City comes in and they get all their loan players from Man City. See what happens if they're able to take a run at it, because they'll have depth probably more so than anybody else. So
Super Frank Lampard has dreamed of winning the CONCACAF Champions League. Of all the things he's done in his career, he's longed to get back to the Club World Cup in some Asian country that played at 3 a.m. Frank really wants that. He's got to get back there to that Club World Cup. It's so prestigious playing with the likes of teams.
How old is he going to be when NYCFC actually kicks off?
He's
35 or 36, I think.
I think he's 35 or 36 when they start next year. He's coming to. Ashley Cole didn't want to walk on the beach, so yes, other people do. He's actually he turned 36 in June, so
Lampard.
Lampard. So he'll be 37 in the middle of next season. He'll turn 37.
You've got a 3-year deal?
Yeah. He's going to be Beckham. He's going to stand in the middle, spray some balls around, take some free kicks.
So what you're saying is I'm not expecting to see Lampard at any U.S. Open Cup games.
It's not even in his contract. Frank doesn't even know the U.S. Open Cup exists. He doesn't know. No.
Not feeding him in Harrisburg then. Okay.
No, Frank Lampard ain't playing the Harrisburg City Islanders. Got news for them. The Rochester Rhinos are not seeing Frank. The Dayton Dutch Lions will not have an appearance from Frank Lampard. It's not happening. Sorry to crush their hopes and dreams, but maybe when promotion really get. Oh no, not going there. It's too much for one night. Ted, if you're out there, you're still blocked. So we'll wrap this thing up with some final thoughts. We'll start with you, Philip. Any final words you'd like to speak to our vast audience?
I think the Sporting game it was a one-time thing. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing them come out against Houston. That game is going to be explosive because of their history. So it's going to be a game where, just like every Sporting and Houston game, it's not going to be the prettiest game, but it's going to be physical and it's going to be close.
That game's either 1-1 or it's like 4-0 Sporting.
Yeah.
I don't see any other way around it. The Dynamo.
I don't know about 4-0, but let's keep it low. Yeah.
The Dynamo defense is pretty atrocious. It's going to be ugly. Rob, anything else you'd like to wrap up with?
From last Saturday, we just saw more shades of old school TFC, giving up a goal in the 89th minute.
Seth asked before the show if Rob had heard how Robert Earnshaw did in his first game back. Another shot at Canada from Seth. Yeah,
he just doesn't like us. I don't know.
He loves Canada. He really.
I do. I went to Montreal in the spring to see a Revolution game. It was very nice until about 10 minutes in, and when Montreal scored and the Revs lost.
There you go. So yeah, that's. If you don't follow Rob on Twitter, you should follow him just for the fact of his possible meltdowns if Toronto happens to lose or give up late equalizers. It's quite entertaining. If you don't follow Rob Did It on Twitter, follow him because the man gets into the games and it is a sight to see during any Toronto game.
And Rob could be your token Canadian follow, so there you go.
Yes, if Rob is friends with the Americans, he loves Americans. If you need a Canadian friend, he has in the pre-show told us about how excited we should be about Tim Hortons coming to the U.S. It's going to be we're going to have to
love it. You'll love it.
Timbit, was it Timbits?
Timbits. You'll have iced caps. You're going to have everything. It'll be amazing.
Exciting. We have that to look forward to, America.
As weird as Celsius.
Oh. Metric system. Weird. Seth, anything else you'd like to end with? Quickly, the Red Bulls just won 2-0 full time. They're on the board. 2-0, 3 points. Seth?
I'm just I'm disappointed that the Revs won't play against Landon Donovan, so we can't give him a lifetime Dunkin' Donuts card or something like that. But hopefully, there's some sort of great ceremony and we can see Landon Donovan cry when he comes to Hartford to play his last U.S. He's definitely going to cry. He has to be crying. U.S. national team game against Ecuador. So, tons of good stuff happening in New England.
I think Landon, if there ever was a place for Landon Donovan to finish his career, it's East Hartford, Connecticut, at Rentschler Field. Nothing says American soccer like Rentschler Field. I've been there. It's quite amazing. The campus is fun. All right, I really have nothing other than I wrote something on the Dynamo on Total-MLS this evening. If you haven't read it, it's basically my ramblings of what's wrong with the Dynamo. I tried to give them some ideas, but I think it's a lost cause. We've already fallen down the table far enough. The East is too difficult. We've only missed the playoffs once in our existence, so I can't really complain too much. Like my friend Rob, who's never even tasted the playoffs. So we'll let someone else in. But it's disheartening. And I happen to support Manchester United since I was a little kid. And that's about all I'll say on that. 4-0 to MK Dons. So, thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks to everyone for listening. You can check out the podcast of this on the AASP and check it out on Stitcher. Check it out on iTunes. Follow all of us on Twitter. Check out 32 Flags, our partners on the network, bringing you all kinds of coverage from the world of soccer. Until next week, talk to everyone later. See ya.